Yo, Nikki, guess how long it takes to see a woman of color on Pinterest when you're scrolling down on the trending downtown girl aesthetic?
Maybe like 15 seconds?
It takes an entire minute and 5 seconds. Can you believe that?
What the hell? I can scroll through 120 Instagram posts in a minute. Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Noor, and we
We
are
are the Compass Podcast.
Today, we will be discussing inclusivity in the beauty industry.
First, let's jump into our research. So, for years, hair and makeup companies have been excluding women of color. For example, highly branded foundation companies never have shades that drop below medium fair.
No way. Did you know that a recent survey stated that 70% of hair salons don't know how to deal with textured hair? Thus, colored people must feel like secondhand customers when entering a salon.
And it's a horrible feeling for anybody to have that they're a guest in something that should be a welcoming hair salon. Systematic racism is a driving force within the beauty industry, and this is only one of many examples. Makeup artists and hairstylists say that this has to do with the lack of education in beauty school.
And the ideology that curly hair is something that needs to be, I quote, fixed is so twisted. Now, let's jump right into the history of hair straightening.
So, in the 1800s, before hair straightening, African hairstyles were considered a means for spiritual interaction due to their proximity to the sky. So, having curly hair was very valuable to African people. Also, hairstyles varied from tribe to tribe.
That's so cool. Did you know that in the 1800s, female slaves used butter knives to curl their hair to make it look more quote unquote presentable? Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, and this is only the first example of how slaves started altering their hair to match European beauty standards. In fact, in the 1860s, which was post-slavery, Black people used a mixture of lye, potato, and egg to straighten their hair, which caused detrimental effects such as the severe burning of the scalp.
And in the 1870s, Marcel Wave, a hair straightener, was created to style hair without creating as much damage. It was marketed to solely Black women to achieve hair with a European texture. The diameter of the curl strand is so fragile, so the heat caused irreplaceable damage to the afro-textured hair. This was terrible.
Yeah, it was seriously very hard for Black people to deal with their hair being conformed to these beauty standards, and this continued into the 1900s. And I quote W.E.B. Du Bois, "The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line, which show themselves chiefly in the color of the skin and the texture of the hair, will hereafter be made the basis of denying to over half the world the right of sharing to utmost ability the opportunities and privileges of modern civilization." So in truth, Black people and people with afro-textured hair are just trying to conform and be taken seriously, but as W.E.B. Du Bois describes in this quote, they can't be.
In the 1930s, Rastafarianism encouraged Black Americans to keep their hair in its natural state. This was the start of a revolution.
As I quote from Malcolm X, who was an advocate for Black rights in America in 1954, "This was my first really big step towards self-degradation when I endured all of that pain, literally burning my flesh to have it look like a white man's hair. I had joined that multitude of Black men and women in America who are brainwashed into believing that the Black people are inferior and white people superior, that they will even violate and mutilate their God-created bodies to try to look pretty by white standards." And this is something I wanted to point out because Malcolm X was a man who straightened his hair, so it shows that Black men are also discriminated against in the beauty industry and made to conform to white standards.
Even though he was proud of who he was, he still felt that he had to cave into European beauty standards. That really does say a lot about the situations at the time. Continuing in 1969, the rise of afros and straightening tools becoming criticized as oppressive tools began. And now continuing, we have past experience. So as a woman of color, I was never able to find curly hair products that suited me and foundation shades that truly matched growing up. They've always just been a little off. I also grew up feeling like I needed to blow dry my curly hair pinned straight to be able to fit in. I was always told that my hair was frizzy. I never was able to fit into brandy pants despite being the average weight as a tall woman of color. Yeah.
So I'm not discriminated against in the beauty industry because I'm not a person of color, but I'm really sorry to you, Nor, that you had to go through these things, and also to all of the other people who are discriminated against in the beauty industry who had to go through these things. And our intro was basically, if you look up an aesthetic on Pinterest, you see mostly skinny white women. So Nora's past experiences and the research that we had really goes to show that this discrimination still continues. We talk about inclusion in the beauty industry, but it's not reflected in the content we consume or even how people treat women of color and overweight women in the beauty industry.
Well said, Nikki. So now we're continuing into our media thoughts. So obviously, to some, women of all shapes, sizes, and colors have been left out of the conversation when it comes to beauty. The beauty industry is clearly dominated by Eurocentric cis women because of this systematic racism that still continues to introduce bias into our society. The maximalism trend takes inspo from people of color. For example, the maximalism trend takes inspiration from people of color. For example, the Harajuku styles, the street fashion from the area of Tokyo, but these styles are often fetishized.
So this goes to show that even like Eurocentric fashions, like the maximalism trend, often takes people of color out of the picture, as the Harajuku style was crucial to developing the maximalism trend.
Exactly, and ethnic beauty trends, including the Harajuku styles, are considered a novelty rather than a part of the generalized beauty industry. That fact is extremely messed up.
You're so right, Nor, and not only do these issues affect people of color, but they also affect people of different weight classes. So, for example, there's this question going around social media platforms: is it an outfit or is she just skinny? And what this goes to show is that so many celebrities wouldn't be praised for their outfits if they were overweight people or if they weren't celebrities and still wearing the outfits.
So true, Nikki. Now moving on to our commentary and analysis. So, beauty is obviously a form of self-expression, and we strongly believe that people are being oppressed due to the lack of representation shown. This is damaging to the overall concept of self-love and feeding into everyone's overall insecurity, especially people of color and different weight classes. Racial diversity can change the way that people perceive beauty in a positive way. There are different ways to be beautiful that don't include being a blue-eyed blondie with perfect skin and a skinny body. Going off beauty being a form of self-expression. I saw a reel about how people are judged for the way that they express themselves with makeup. This seems to always be discriminated groups of people.
It's not even about makeup or fashion, but instead how close the person can be to the beauty standard, which is honestly being a skinny white cis woman. So some potential solutions for not comparing yourself to other people who conform to this beauty standard include staying off of social media, because social media has edited people and faces, but there's also been a big surge of inclusion and cultural trends on social media.
So circling back, obviously we don't believe that skinny cis white women can't be super beautiful, because obviously they are, as they are the face of the beauty industry as of now. But we definitely believe that the beauty industry needs to have a lot more representation. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Our next episode will be sometime within the next 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Bye.